Hi there. Thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Taste with Sherry, where we're saving the earth one flavor at a time by gathering community to share wisdom around the natural connections between our innate sense of taste and flavors that are grown in healthy, regenerative soils. Welcome. Hey there, Sherry Hess with the Flavor Remedy here. Thanks again for listening to another episode of Let's Talk Taste with Sherry. I am coming to you live from a beautiful day in Cozumel, Mexico. And I'm so happy to be here and excited to share this journey with you. You come to a tropical island and you think about, what are all the delicious flavors you get to experience on a tropical island, right? So, oh my goodness, one of the things I'm most excited about, to be honest with you, is actually fish. I live in Colorado, I'm a landlocked state. So to come here and have shrimp and fresh red snapper and oh my goodness, straight out of these beautiful crystal clear waters. It's like the best food ever, right? And you imagine when you come to an island like this that not only you're going to get fresh seafood, but you're also going to get I have visions everywhere I go, like any farm to table or farm to table kind of concept, right? In a tropical place, you think it's just off the charts amazing. So, of course, we get here and our hotel has this beautiful rooftop overlooking the ocean restaurant. Yeah, within 5 minutes, I'm making friends with the chef and we're having conversations and talking about food. And I mentioned to him that I do this podcast and he wants to hook me up with all these cool people, which is awesome. So I start telling him, or we start sharing conversations around our passion of flavor and real food. And, I'm explaining to him this concept of my podcast being, the Flavor Remedy and talking about living flavors and this experience that we have as humans, in our taste buds. And he says to me, well, I asked him about growing foods and, if he's sourcing local foods. And that was, interesting conversation because here on Cozumel, it's a very small island and evidently susceptible to hurricanes last year. So he talked about the difficulty, on these small islands of actually growing or having a complete garden because the weather is so sporadic and changes on a dime. And, these hurricanes that came last year just wiped out everything that anyone was trying to grow. So you might make assumptions that people can source things very easily, right? And on a tropical island. But here, indeed, the chef does have to travel to the mainland over to Playa del Carmen and shop in markets over there. Still regional, right? He's still supporting regional food. But the interesting thing was, and this is where we have to look at the reality of where we are and what we're demanding when it comes to flavor, is that what the chef said to me is he said, I make this food that I believe is delicious. I care about the ingredients. I source local food. Oh my gosh, he made this dish last night. It was like this whipped Argentinian cheese of some sort. And he got tomatoes and there were green tomatoes and red tomatoes. And it was just off the charts delicious. But what he says to me is, I think I make delicious food, but sometimes it's not what people want. So the fascinating part about that is that we have to look at where we are. Like, what are we demanding? And to me, the picture is so clear. The fact that our flavors have been so hijacked and we have been so programmed through our taste buds and through our intellect, right? We've been taught and we've been programmed that the only thing that's flavorful or tastes good is sweet and salty, because that's what we're inundated with. And that's what our bodies have become accustomed to. And when the tourists arrive here to Jonathan's beautiful restaurant and they're used to eating processed food, they come here and ask him for nachos. They don't want this beautiful fresh tomato, homemade whipped Argentinian cheese. People are asking for nachos. And I'm not stating this to sound like insulting. This is where we are. This is what we believe is delicious food that brings comfort to people because it is what's predominant. That's the basis of it, right? It's not I don't say this to be a judgment, but more to bring awareness to the fact that this predominant acceptance that we have allowed to happen, this hijacking of our taste buds, has taken us away from the full-blown experience of what flavors actually can do for us and can do for our body. And when we combine these flavors that are from a living source, we can recognize more than just the experience on our taste buds, but our full body experience, that follows different flavors when you're eating real living flavors. So it was fascinating to me, this conversation with the chef, because he's having to he wants to make his customers happy, right? And he's seeing this demand around basically, a recreation of a processed food. So I feel I feel bad for him because he's making this delicious food, and it's just simply this trend, I think, that we're on, and it also brings up this awareness around what's happening in our food. This idea that sweet and salty are the only flavors that, quote unquote, taste good to us. And if you could think about the sweetness, it's almost gotten to this point where our bodies are so used to salty and sweet that that's where we get into trouble. Because if those are the only flavors that feel good to us, or that we think are tasting good on our taste buds, then we're missing out on the benefits of so many other flavors. We're missing out on the benefits of bitter. We're missing out on the benefits of sour. We're missing out on understanding what umami flavor is, which is actually the building blocks of our protein in our bodies, right? So by just thinking that salty and sweet are good for us, it does so many things that it allows, the processed food industry, the manufactured flavor industry, to hijack our taste buds with all these, these two predominant, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for the word that we lean into these flavors, right? This is what we know. These are our favorite flavors. These are the most appealing. That's the word. These are the most appealing flavors that we experience, from a simple standpoint. But part of that appeal is coming from the fact that it's the only thing we're being given, right? It's the only thing that we are experiencing. If you were to look at a different culture, like let's just say Indian food, for example, or even Mexican food. We're here in Mexico, as you talk about Mexican food, right? Spices that come into play. It's not just about the heat, it's about the different ways that bitter flavors can also benefit us. And when you combine bitter flavors with sweet, like always come in nature. So if you're going to eat a sweet fruit in nature, it always comes in a bitter package, whether it's the skin or whether it's a seed or whether it's something about that fruit. It's not just sweet. And guess what? When you incorporate bitter with sweet, your body completely processes it in a different way. You get the benefits. There's so many examples I could give around that. One of the classic ones is cinnamon, putting cinnamon on your fruit, right? Putting cinnamon on apples. Cinnamon brings you the heat, it brings you a little bitter, it brings you the medicinal, it brings you the sugar balance, right? Like there are people that actually take capsules of cinnamon for balancing blood sugar and insulin. So combining bitter with sweet and consuming foods from nature that have complex flavor profiles is where the difference lies, is where we need to recognize that this demand that we have around processed food and everything wanting to be salty and sweet. And we're coming to a beautiful place like Cozumel, where the chef is, visiting local regional gardens and supporting regional farms and growing the things that support life here. And yet we're coming and we're asking for nachos because it's what we know, instead of expanding our horizons and tasting new things and letting bitter and sour, the sour squeeze of a lime, instead of letting that be a new experience that maybe steps you out of the comfort zone, but also shows you an amazing, amazing flavor experience, as well as a supportive nutrition for your body. And that's really what we're going for here, right? Is this whole idea that living flavor and trusting flavors that can speak to you through your taste buds and then ultimately in your body, makes a big difference. And when you do that, and when you open your mind and you open your palate and you see the beauty and taste the beauty of all flavors grown the way nature intended, it's a whole new experience for you. And you don't have to read any more books about what the latest diet trend is. That's the flavor remedy.